evening, everyone. My name is Thomas Belsky, and I would like to welcome you and thank you guys for all coming here today. I wanted to talk to you guys today about conflict management. I know that all of you are very busy with your orientation process, so I do appreciate you guys being here this afternoon. I'm going to ask that you guys please turn off your cell phones because it may be disruptive to the rest of the class that is trying to learn. If you guys are wondering, restrooms are down the hall and to the right. So I'm going to begin by handing out a copy of the objectives that we are going to be covering today. Darren, would you please pass those out? So I'm going to begin by reviewing the objectives for the presentation. The first objective is to define conflict management. Managing conflict is an important skill that can be very helpful when dealing with your fellow students, and we will talk more about that in a little bit. The second objective is to discuss the 3 skills used in successful conflict management. These skills are good communication, quality negotiation skills, and emotional intelligence. These skills can be used as your role as an RA, but can also be used when you are interacting with friends and family. The third objective is to apply learned strategies to effectively manage conflict. We will be practicing the skills you learned today by breaking out into small groups and role-playing some scenarios dealing with conflict. Then, at the end, we will take a few minutes if you guys have any questions for me. In your role as a resident advisor, you will be challenged to problem solve and resolve conflict with your fellow students. This will not be an easy task. For most students, this is the first time away from home, and for other people, this is their first time dealing with conflict in an adult setting. It is very important that you have a solid understanding of the basic principles of managing conflict. I would like to start today by giving you a scenario that involves a conflict between 2 students. Those 2 students are Amy and Maggie. Amy comes into your room during office hours, and she tells you she is positive that she cannot live with Maggie. She explains that she has tried talking to Maggie, but she just will not listen. She said that Maggie plays loud music at all hours of the night, has multiple people over in the room, and to make it worse, Maggie is even eating Amy's food. Roommate compatibility or incompatibility is a common occurrence on college campuses. I would like you to think about that scenario for a minute. Could anyone tell me what could happen if conflict is not resolved effectively? Yes, Debbie.
If it keeps going on, then it just makes it harder to solve.
Yeah, that's very true. And if the conflicts are not addressed in a timely manner, they can definitely build up over time. Kristen?
The fighting could get worse.
Yeah, if the issue is not addressed quickly, it can escalate into shouting or something even worse than that. Darren?
Their grades could suffer.
Yeah, students are coming to campus, many of them worrying about their grades. They want to spend time studying and not constantly arguing with one another. So the next thing I'm going to do is hand out the training plan so everyone can follow along. All right, please pass it down. Okay, so let's begin with defining conflict management. Conflict management is defined as the process of limiting the negative aspects of conflict while increasing the positive aspects of conflict. This is done through various techniques and ideas to enhance effectiveness and performance outcomes. Conflict is not new to any of us. We all deal with conflict, whether it's with our family or our jobs. It's basically unavoidable. Being a resident assistant, you'll be called upon frequently to assist with resolving conflict. So now that you know about conflict management, let's talk about the skills you need to help with conflict management. The 3 skills/strategies are clear communication, strong negotiation skills, and emotional intelligence. The first and perhaps the most important skill is communication. There is so much to say about communication that I could spend the entire presentation just on this subject. An article written by Johnson & Johnson purported, an ability to communicate well should enable a person to solve conflicts more smoothly and effectively. Communication is not just about the words that you say. Some studies show that up to 75% of your communication is your body language. It's important to be aware of your body languages at all times. You can't be listening to two students, one of them voicing concern, and you're just nodding along in agreement. So it's important that you are aware of things like your facial expressions, your hand gestures, and especially your tone of voice. Active listening is very important to effective communication. Listen closely and make sure you understand what they are saying. Some great examples of doing this would be paraphrasing. For example, it sounds like you were saying you feel discouraged when you try to talk to Maggie. Or you can say that what I'm hearing is you feel like you are getting frustrated with the issue. Before we move on to negotiations, can anyone think of an example when they used a clear communication and it was very effective?
I just don't think anyone really cares about this. I mean, we're adults. What's a chemist major like me need to know about this?
Darla, why do you feel like this training isn't important?
Well, because I'm not going to deal with kids or preteens. I'm going to deal with doctors and adults. They don't argue about this petty stuff.
Well, are you sure that everyone feels that way?
I'm pretty sure.
Well, it sounds like you feel this presentation is not helpful, but we can definitely talk about this after class if you have any questions or concerns with me. I just hope that you be quiet so that the rest of the students can pay attention and are not disruptive. Okay. The second skill or strategy I want to present is negotiation. Ideally, when negotiating, you should aim for a collaborative negotiation, working together to resolve issues. And in order to do that, I want to share these successful ideas with you. Make sure that you are focusing on the goal. Define the issue or the conflict and make sure parties understand the issues. Address the problem and not the person. And separate the people from the problem. Obtain for a win-win solution. This is where both parties feel like their goals have been met. Always make sure you plan ahead, like the scenario we talked about earlier with Maggie and Amy. Make sure you plan out a meeting date and a time that is good for both students. Encouraging the students to say things like, I really want things to work out with you, or I think we can make it out so that we both have our goals met. Before I get started into the last skill, which is emotional intelligence, I want to point out that these skills and strategies can overlap. A recent study based on interview data showed the effective communication is directly proportional to effective negotiations. The better the communication, the better the negotiations. Finally, the last skill for effective conflict management is emotional intelligence, or in short, EI. Emotional intelligence has been advanced to describe the set of personal attributes that enhance social and professional relationships. Emotional intelligence is when you are aware of your own feelings and emotions, as well as the feelings and emotions of others. According to Halbstadt and Dunsmore, individuals who are more attuned to the emotions of self and other may tend to interact with other in a more effective way. Being emotionally aware of others' feelings can be so effective in conflict management. I'm sure you heard the expression, putting yourself in other people's shoes. Show empathy. Acknowledge what the students are saying. So now what I would like you guys to do is break up into small groups. We are going to use the conflict scenario from the beginning of the presentation with Maggie and Amy. Each group will be given a suggestion and an idea of how you can help each student resolve these conflicts. So we're going to have Darren and Kristen pair up, and you guys are going to work on communication skills. We're going to have Darla and Charlie pair up, and you guys are going to work on negotiation skills. And Debbie, you are going to work on emotional intelligence skills.
I feel like there should be a place for like patients, you know, be calm, communicate about things that they're feeling about each other, about the problems that they're having. Yeah, exactly. those things.
Alright guys, now that we've had a moment to discuss, I'm just going to ask you guys what you guys found out for an answer for each one of the methods. So we're going to start with you, Darren. Where did you come up with?
Well, me and Kristen were saying about how, for communication, I feel they should say everything that's on their mind and like how they're feeling about the problems and about each other. And they should be in a space where they can feel comfortable talking to each other, in a space where like they won't have any like emotional problems or things like that.
That's really good. You also want to remember about paraphrasing. When students are discussing their point of views, you can say things like, I hear what you were saying, but if you don't understand why, you have friends over. So you just want to make sure that you're paraphrasing those ideas with that person as well. Darla and Charlie, would you like to share what you guys got?
Sure. Charles and I were talking about how for negotiation, you really need to first define the issue. It sounds like Amy's a real complainer, and she has a lot of issues. She's saying she eats her food, and she has people over, so like how many people is multiple people? Is 2 too many? Is 10 too many? And then she should really like simmer down and try to present it in a more positive manner.
You make some very good points, Darla. And remember, we are trying to get it as close to a win-win situation as we can, because conflict is resolved and both parties are happy with the outcome with a win-win scenario. And Debbie, can you talk about what answer you got?
Well, with emotional intelligence, I think that, Amy was very focused on her own emotions, but really it sounds like she wasn't focused at all on what Maggie had to say or feel. So I just think that I would just encourage, both of them to, for Amy to kind of reflect on what Maggie's feelings are and vice versa.
And that's good. A good thing to remember is to make sure that you are acknowledging what the other student is saying. That was really good, guys. I think you guys did a very good job. All right, so now we are going to summarize today's presentation. As an RA, you will be asked to assist with many conflicts. Conflict management consists of many ideas and techniques to resolve conflict. Today we discussed 3 of these skills. First was communication, which is the key to managing conflict successfully. Next was negotiation, which is where you strive for a win-win situation where everyone feels like they had reached their goals. Followed by emotional intelligence, understanding your own feelings as well as others. Then finally, we acted out conflicts and brainstormed positive solutions to resolve the conflict. Are there any questions? Okay, if nobody has any further questions, I am going to ask that everyone just take a few minutes and fill out a survey for me. It's very important for me to have feedback on myself as a presenter and ensure for future presentations that the objectives were met. Thank you guys for being here today, and I appreciate you guys participating in my presentation. You guys can take the survey.